Hello everyone, good evening, it's TC again. I'm back to talk about my critical thinking class. So this is going to be the last video I make since my class is almost over, and then I'll be starting a new set of classes here after this. So I'm discussing chapter 9, how good is evidence, personal observation, research studies, and analogies. Based on this book, asking all the right questions, which is what all my modules have been based on so far. So I know the last one I believe I did was on chapter or module 9. So the modules are based on the chapters. So I didn't do a video on chapter 8, which is how good is the evidence from intuition, personal experience, case examples, testimonials, and appeals to authority. So I feel like I can't really talk about chapter 9 without talking about chapter 8, just because they pretty much go hand in hand, and what evidence in an argument or just in general day-to-day things, what evidence is good evidence and what evidence we should analyze further. And I feel like all evidence we have, we should always analyze further. But see, like, I'll just briefly touch on some of the things on chapter 8, like intuition. And I think we had a huge class discussion on this. Intuition is just like gut feeling, we all know that, but I don't feel like that counts as critical thinking. I don't feel like that is legitimate argument. And not to say, I'm not arguing the fact that intuition is there and it's a real thing, a real feeling or whatever. And of course I make decisions based on intuition all the time, and so do other people. However, I don't think that just because we're making decisions off intuition that we're actually using critical thinking to make these decisions. As far as personal experience, everyone's personal experiences are going to be different, and it also goes on into saying about expert opinions, and even expert opinions are going to be different because we're all different. Their experience is going to be different than another expert's opinion, and so on and so forth. Also their education, their background, all these things come into play when we're talking about experts to say. But I think that one kind of goes in with personal experience as well as testimonials, just because when someone does a testimony, especially experts and things like that, they're going off their personal experience. As far as testimonials go, when people, especially you see it a lot in with celebrities. I mean, I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't watch commercials and things like that. But before, when I did, you see, I mean, and you still, anytime like the TV's playing at work, I can see, celebrities, saying like, try this product or try this other one because it really works. Or this is what I use, for my skin, for clear skin, or, athletes, saying that Gatorade is what they use to stay hydrated or whatever. So again, they're more biased because they're getting paid, obviously, to say these things. So it's just questioning whether to really believe this evidence, believe the argument that they're trying to say, which is that their product is either the best product or a good product. And then I kind of already touched on appeals to authority. That one's, again, experts, saying, that something is good or not, or that's just more like advertising. But even doctors that have very much experiencing that certain medicine is good, well, you need to start questioning, are they getting paid by by this company to say things, how extensive is their research in it. All these things really do come into play. But anyways, going on to chapter 9, we're talking about personal observation, research, studies, and analogies. So obviously, if we see something firsthand, we're going to be more inclined to believe it. However, even that is flawed. Like, misconceptions are there. Like, if we don't always know what is going on. Like, things may appear a certain way, but they're not. However, we can see, let's say you see, like, two Italian people, just, you see them and you think that they're arguing, and they're blah 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 whatever, but then they're actually just having they're really excited and they're talking about something that happened, and it's just because of their tone of voice and their hand gestures that you feel like they're arguing, when in fact that was not the case at all. So even your personal observations can be completely wrong. So even that you can't trust. Even like eyewitnesses, those things we rely on them a lot, especially like trials, or like when we see the news and we see all these eyewitnesses and stuff. We're more inclined to believe what they're saying. However, like I just said, their perception of things may be flawed too. To kind of make it more credible is if we get more and more people that saw the same thing, because then they can see different perspectives. Like, if we have like 10 people that eyewitnesses and on this situation, then one can say, no, it didn't appear as they were fighting. It was just someone was more, they were excited or whatever. So, but then we can also have 10 people that all thought that they saw arguments. So even then, even if that wasn't the case, it's not 100% reliable. And then we have research. Again, a lot of things with research, just because it's been researched, we feel like we must believe it. And I don't think that any research study proves anything. It shows support that works. Or for example, medicine. We research medicine. We do all these trials, and we get these groups of people. We have them test out the medication and everything. Even if the medication works on certain people, we can't say 100% the medication works, because everyone's bodies are going to be different and things of that nature. So we can say things like, I don't think, the conclusion would be that the medication works. Or if someone's arguing against the medication, they can say that the medication does not work. But I don't think it goes either way, because if we're saying the medication works, the research isn't going to prove that something's working. It's just going to show support that it works. That's what I think about when I think about research. Other things to consider when you're considering research is things like, who did the research? Where was the research done? How were the people selected? Were they randomly selected? Were they chosen? If they were chosen, it involves issues with being biased, or selecting certain people to show certain results, because you're going to get certain results with certain people. If you if you do a research saying, you do like a survey or something, saying, and let's say you say, most Americans are, support abortion, okay? but you chose to only ask 10 people outside like a Planned Parenthood. But of course, when you just see that in an article, they're not going to tell you who they interviewed, where they interviewed them, how many, etc., etc. And these are the types of things that should be included or that you should question or ask. Because of course, then if you ask 10 people that are coming straight out of Planned Parenthood, then it may be different. And even then, you may get, they could even twist that and even say, like, let's say that the people that are, just because they're going to Planned Parenthood, they don't really support abortion. So they could twist those results and say, most Planned Parenthood, users, don't support abortion or whatever, or pro-life or whatever. And it's just like, well, you only asked 10 people, and it's just happened that those 10 people, didn't support it. It doesn't show everybody. Usually we tend to say the larger the group, the more accurate the actual, the research, the studies, but in reality, it's not going to be accurate 100% because there's no way you can ask everyone and that everyone's going to be truthful, and also equality and all these things, and people's minds change and we grow, and even our moods affect certain things, and all these things. Like, for example, they were talking about a study here done based on survey who's happier, married couples or single people. Well, how can we measure something like that? Like, what exactly are they talking about happiness? How are we measuring happiness? Like, this not really defined as far as who's happier, and also the time of day that people are asked this. If sometimes you feel like, just time of day in general, like, you can feel happy one time of day and then shitty the next, and then happy, and so on and so forth. And so what time of day were these people question, what, in their lives, where were they, was there a lot going on? Did they have a recent death, breakup, are they having marriage problems? Did they just find out they're going to expect? Did they just have a new baby? Did they just have a recent promotion? Like, all these things are going to be variables that are uncontrollable, that we cannot control every single thing. And also, are these people being truthful? We can't always say people are being truthful. How many times have we been surveyed and we just, answer whatever, or we answer what we think the person wants to hear, or we just get like, we just kind of want to blow them off and we just answer whatever, or even when we don't really fully think about the question and we just answer whatever. So surveys and studies like that, they can't be 100% reliable either. Like I said, we can ask more questions and more in depth about how much more reliable it is, but there's so many variables that it's just there's no way we can control every single variable that there is. Let me see, what else have I not talked about? Okay, also with the studies, they're showing certain things, but they're interpreted differently. So who the people, people can interpret things different ways. So let me think about a good so let's see, like here it says, research findings shows, like we see that all the time, like research findings shows, or scientists, studies show, or blah 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 blah. But it's really researchers interpret their research finding as showing. So, once we get results, they're just results. We need someone to interpret what it's saying. So, I read ahead a little bit into chapter 10, and it's talking about how this little boy, he notices how the sun goes up and the sun comes down. The sun rises and falls, so it gets night and day, and he's trying to figure out why. And then he realizes that he has a babysitter, so he realizes that the babysitter, leaves at night, and then so he asks the babysitter, "Where do you go at night?" And she says she goes home. So based on observances over and over and over again, his interpretation is that when the babysitter goes home, the sun goes home too. So a lot of research that we do and a lot of studies that we do is based on just like repetitive testable things, so things we see over and over again, so that we take them as a truth. Well, that's was the little boy's way of interpreting this, that as soon as his babysitter went home, the sun went home too. So we need to see too who's interpreting these things for us, and are they interpreting them in a way that they're trying to make it more, they're trying to obscure what the results actually showed. Let's see. And with studies, we need to see also are they retestable? Are they retestable, and has someone retested it? And how recent have they been retested? So, there's certain studies out there that, they haven't been retested in many, many years, and they've just kind of been accepted. But they were never retested, or, they were retested so long ago that there has been no recent testing to verify that this data continues to be true. Because as we know, things change, and the world's constantly changing, and all these things have new technology and all this stuff. So those things we should also be mindful of. And I already talked about the quality and things like that. And we talked about how samples must be large, and the number, the bigger the better. The randomness, the diversity. Kind of already touched on a little bit of all that, and how honest people should be. Multiple interpretations, touched a little bit on that. Yeah, so I think I touched on everything I wanted to talk about. So I'll close it off with saying that this topic is interesting because it really gives you a perspective of, just how it is, how good is the evidence. So it's interesting because it shows you what evidence is trustworthy. And in my opinion, I don't think no evidence is trustworthy. Just recently, my whole world just went upside down. When not my critical thinking teacher, surprisingly, it was my math teacher just recently, asked us, something about the world, and we're like, "Oh, the earth is round," and he's like, "Oh, how do you know that?" And I'm just like, I have no argument for it. And so he came on with all these arguments, and I'm just sitting there okay, tell me more, because all I've been told is, I was told, that it was briefly explained that the earth is round since I was, a little girl, and I just took it on and I accepted it as a truth. But I never argued it. I just accepted it, and I never really went into research or why we believe it is, or anything like that. So it really put into perspective, like, really, like, we've been taught in this course, like, over and over, like, question the evidence, think of the argument. Is the argument good? Like, and back when I'm little, I don't really think about arguing, why the earth is round. They tell me the earth is round. And my teacher, the most, smart person in my world, who I think is, the all-knowing person, tells me that the earth's round. Of course, I'm going to believe it. But since then, I haven't really questioned it, anything like that. Things like, the extermination of all Jews, like the Holocaust and all these things, like, we're just giving it to us, but we don't really question, how true that things like that are. And it just really puts into perspective, like, really question everything. And I feel like nothing can really be set in stone at all. Everything is, in my opinion, nothing can be proven. Nothing is 100% set. I think everything is, with the arguments and things like that, there's no way of knowing. There's no way of saying 100% it's this, unless we can physically see it, like certain simple things, like, okay, there's more males and females, in my critical thinking class or whatever. I don't know if that's true or not, but let's just use it as an example. Versus, is this medication effective? Well, it just opens up like a jar of worms or whatever, about, like, well, to find effective and to find out your research and looking into all these things. I was just talking about, studies that have been done on the quality of the studies, has it been retested, all these different factors that go into it. So I honestly find this whole course fascinating, interesting, and the module, this one was very interesting as well, along with the module that it correlates to, chapter 8. So, alright, so I'll be posting this, not sure if on Facebook. I'll try to post it on Facebook first. If that doesn't work, then I'll go on YouTube, just because Facebook's been giving me some issues lately. People have not been able to hear the audio on it, and some of my videos just disappearing. So, and then some people being able to access them and not others. So I'll try Facebook. If that doesn't work, then we'll go to YouTube and see how that works. Alright, well, I love you guys all, and I'll see you guys soon. Alright, besitos.